Good evening. I am so sorry, guys. This may be the craziest 24 hours of my entire life, so I apologize for that. Henrietta people know what's going on, but but I'm very thankful everyone is here tonight. We have quite a bit of a crowd for Sunday evening. We're very thankful and very blessed for that. Tonight, Arpoika will be speaking to us tonight. Arpoika Daniels, he is from Seminole. He's the preacher there. He's been in youth ministry for the past 25 years, and the past 6 years he's moved into pulpit ministry, and so, we have some other jokes, but I won't talk about them right now, but that's okay. We're very blessed that he is here to speak to us tonight. I hope you guys really take in what he says tonight, and so, Arpoika, I'll let you do your thing, so.
You know what? Is it all right if I just stand down here on the bottom? Because I don't know if I'm going to lay this on top of that. And if I don't have my notes with me, I can tell you what happens. I get sidetracked. One of my elders told me one time, I'm taking your notes out of your Bible. And I said, that's okay, Sid, if that's what you want to do. But those notes are not for me, they're for you. If I don't have something to keep me on track, we're going to be here all night. And he said, okay, I will not take your notes. I do appreciate you guys allowing me and inviting me to come and share some things with you tonight. And we're going to be talking about the parable of the talents. Now, I'm sure that you have heard this story many, many, many times in your life, and you think, what in the world are you going to say that we haven't already heard about it? Well, we're going to try to do something. I'm going to look at it a little differently than I normally do, so I want to just share some things with you about this passage. Let me go back, though, and share a couple of things. Kate told you I've been in ministry for over 30 years. I know you can't believe it because I look so young, right? That's a joke. You can laugh. It's all right. But it's been what I've always wanted to do. This is where my heart has been, is with young people, and why I decided to be a youth minister and was there for 25 years until our preacher left. And he said, when he left, the elders came to me and said, we want you to fill the pulpit. And I said, I'm not sure that I'm ready to grow up yet, but if that's what you want me to do, I respect you men, and that's what I'll do. And so the last several years, they've been allowing me to be the pulpit minister in Seminole, and I love speaking. I've always loved preaching. My heart is still with the kids. That's why we still do camp, and I'm so grateful that this congregation has started with us going to camp, along with some others that are here. We're trying to grow our camp session again. And so it's hopefully going to be a long-term, good relationship with all of our congregations together, and that we can build this and be a family. So any of you, Kate, I'm going to try to help out here. Any of you that want to come to camp next year and help as a counselor, we can always use your help. As I've told a lot of my kids and even some of the families, when they say, well, I can't be there, I have to be at, some of them may say, I've got to go to a ball camp that week. I said, well, I'm not sure you can make it to heaven from ball camp. I know you can from church camp, but I'm not sure. Not joking with them, but I really believe that it's one of the most important things that we do as parents or as adults is take our children to things like this, a week away from all the distractions of this world, and us be able to focus on God's Word and relationships and building those things. I truly believe that we have got to be and have those relationships if we're going to make it through this world. It's getting darker and more dreary all the time looking. And Satan wants to sidetrack us. He wants us to lose focus that we serve a mighty God and a God who loves us and a God who has all the answers to every difficult question in this world. And sometimes we forget that. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that. And a lot of times when we're together and we're visiting and we're talking, those things come out. We can be talking about anything. We can talk about going fishing. And those conversations can and should come around eventually to what? To our God. Look at the fish that you catch. How many of y'all like to fish? Anybody? How many of you have ever just stopped and looked at a fish and wondered why all of those different colors are on that fish? I've taken a lot of little kids fishing for their first time and sit down and talk to them, and a perch. You know, we don't really care about perch, right? We want that big bass, one we can hang on the wall and that kind of stuff. But that perch, they'll catch one, and I say, look at it. Look at the colors. How do you think that fish got all those colors? Some of them have red and green and blues and yellows and all of those colors on them. How did they get there? God did it. Why did he do it? I'm not really sure, but he did it. And he did it for us. He did it for you. He did it for me. And so we get to talk about those things and what God has done. Let me ask you this before we get into the passage. How many of you have ever had someone compliment you on a job that you've done? A couple of people. I'm sorry for the rest of you. How does it make you feel if someone complimented you and said, good job? It makes you feel good, doesn't it? When someone acknowledges that you've done something well, then you go, that makes me feel good, makes me feel better about what I did. Because sometimes we'll do a job and we may be our worst critic, right? We're building something, we're doing something, and we look at it and go, yeah, I'm just not sure I'm happy with that. But when someone says, well done, good job, it kind of changes us a little bit, changes our attitude, and it says, man, I like doing this, and you know what? I want to do it again. I want to do something for this person again or someone else. Maybe it's something I've never done, and maybe it's something I've always thought about. Larry and I were on the phone the other day, and he works on this big equipment, right? Dozers and road graders and all those toys, you know? And he says, well, I'm getting ready to get on the dozer. We're moving some things unless you want to come out and do it. And I said, I don't know that you'd want me on that dozer, but if you're offering, I'm on my way. I could do some damage on one of those things. Just teach me. I said, isn't it like my zero-turn mower? It's probably that easy, right? Well, not exactly. But I'm thinking, I could do that. Maybe he would hire me to come over and do some dirt work. But I'm not sure that he would say, well done, when I was finished. Maybe after he trained me. But we like to hear that. We like to know that we've done a good job because we've tried to do that. We've tried, and we like to be recognized. Why is it important? Why is it important to be acknowledged? God made us that way. He made us where we need each other. Now, we can survive without one another, but it's not easy. 27 different times in the New Testament, the word one another, or allalon in the Greek, is used in most cases, it's in a command form, how we treat one another. Remember, Jesus said, a new command I give you, that you, what? Love one another. We're to pray for one another. We're to encourage one another. We're to edify one another. We are over and over and over again one another. Relationships are important. Now, Matthew chapter 25. Parable of the talents. It was just like a man about to go on a journey who called all of his slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability, and he went on his journey. And the one who had received the 5 talents immediately went away and did business with them and earned 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had received the 2 talents earned 2 more. But he who received the 1 talent went away and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. The one who had received the 5 talents came up and brought 5 more talents, saying, Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I have earned 5 more talents. And his master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful with a few things, and I'm going to put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one who had received the 2 talents came up and said, Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have earned 2 more talents. And his master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You are faithful with a few things. I'm going to put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Now the one who had received the 1 talent also came up and said, Master, I knew that you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed, and I was afraid. So I went away and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you still have what is yours. But his master answered, and he said unto him, You worthless, lazy servant, did you not know that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter seed? Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and on my arrival I would have at least received my money back with interest. Therefore take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he does shall be taken away. And throw the worthless slave into the outer darkness, into that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now I want to tell you just a little bit about this parable before we start talking about what I want to share with you. The parable of the talents is very simple. Sometimes people want to make it a lot more difficult than it is, okay? And too many times today when we hear the word talent, we immediately think about native ability. Do you have anybody here that's a good ball player, softball player? Any softball players in here? No? All right. How difficult is it to play softball? Believe me, softball's been one of my favorite sports for many, many, many years. Even when I was in high school, I went to watch the girls at my high school. I went to Midwest City High School, and we had a pretty good ball team. And I've always loved watching softball. But the moment that a guy thinks he can do what all those girls do on that diamond, needs to get out there and grab a bat and see how long he lasts. Those girls are amazing at what they do. That's native ability. There are certain things that some people can do that others can't do. Now, I know a lot of girls who've tried out for a softball team and didn't really do so well, okay? There is some of that. Not everybody who tries out for something is good at it. And when we hear talent, we say, boy, she's really talented at that. She's really good at that. Or he's really good at that. And that's what we think of when we think of talent. But this parable has nothing to do with that. A talent is simply money. That's all it is. So we've got to understand when he says that this owner, this wealthy man, is coming to his servants and he says, here is some money for you. Be faithful with it. And here's some money for you. Be faithful with it. And here's some money for you. Be faithful with it. All he's done is given them money and said, you be faithful with what I've given you. Now, we have to read some things into it and understand this master knows his servants. He knows what their native abilities are, and he's not going to put someone in a position to fail. That's not what he's about. He wants them to be successful. Why? Because if they're successful, he's successful. Why would a coach put an uncoordinated young lady who's never pitched a ball in her life on a mound to throw a ball? Why would a coach do that? She wouldn't. Would they? It'd be silly, wouldn't it? Who's it going to help? It's going to embarrass that young lady because she doesn't know how to do it. It's going to embarrass the rest of the players. There's nothing good about it. So they're going to put that young lady, maybe she's a phenomenal shortstop or a catcher or something else. That coach is going to learn and put that player where he wants her because he wants her to be successful so the team will be successful. So the parable is saying he knows these servants, and he's giving them some money, and he says, be faithful. Go and make some more money. There's the assignment, right? And so he goes away, and he comes back, and he calls those servants to him, and he says, all right, I gave you 5. See, the different amounts, he understands some people have a greater ability to do things than others. As Christians, the longer we're Christians, we should have, if we've been faithful, we should have more abilities now than we did when we became a Christian. And if we don't, maybe we should begin looking at what kind of life we're living. Because that's what he's saying. What happened when the one who had 5, been given 5 amounts of money, 5 talents of money, and he came, what did he give his master back? 10. The 5 he was given and 5 more. What did the master say? I'm sorry, I should have asked this. Is it all right for me to ask questions on tonight? Or should I just preach? Okay. Good job. Well done. Why did he say that? It's true. He gave him an assignment, right? You be faithful with this 5 amounts of money, and when I come back, there's an expectation. You knew it. The master knew it, right? There was no miscommunication in this at all. And if I gave it to you and you accepted it, you accepted it. You knew. And so the master comes back, and this person with 5 comes, and he says, well done. Now, we already asked that question. How many of you like to hear that? How many times does God tell us, well done, in our life, and we don't hear him telling us, well done? Sometimes we want to listen to people telling us things that God is not telling us. You can't do that. You're not good enough. We need to have someone else doing that. I had a young man about close to 20 years ago that I had been working with, had an amazing voice, very gifted musically. And I finally talked him into leading singing. Did an absolutely fantastic job. Wonderful job. A week later, I asked him, hey, I want you to lead singing again. Nope, I will never lead singing again. Why? I don't want to do it. I don't want to. But why? I don't want to. Just leave me alone, okay? I don't want to do it anymore. I didn't ever want to do it, and I sure don't want to do it anymore, so just don't even ask me. And I couldn't understand why, because everybody that I knew had gone up to him and said, man, young man, you did an absolutely phenomenal job. You have an ability that not very many people have. And it was several years later before I found out what happened. He walked out to leave, very proud of himself because people told him he did a good job. But he heard one man, and I'm going to be rude for a second, one old crotchety man who loved to be negative about everything, He overheard him telling someone else, I just don't know why in the world he wants them kids up there leading, singing. That ain't their job. We need to have our own song leader up there leading. He doesn't even know what he's doing. That's all it took. One person. One man to destroy the faith of a young man. Because he wasn't listening, he hadn't learned yet to hear God say, well done. Because sometimes it's not God speaking in this big booming voice from heaven. Sometimes it's God speaking through you, telling one of these young people, what a great job you've done. Well done. Do you think they need to hear that? We all do. How powerful is that in our life when someone says, well done? And we're doing something for God and His kingdom, and we have someone, an adult or someone else, say, well done. We need to hear that. Our young people need to hear that, because if they don't hear it from us, they're going to hear it from somebody else, and probably doing something they shouldn't be doing. Well done. There is expectation. That person who got the talents, those 5 things of money, he knew there was an expectation on him. The master had those expectations, and he accepted them. Now, there was some pretty obvious. Luke will even say in a similar story, he'll say, go and trade with it. They knew what to do. The money was there to earn more money. That's what we're supposed to do. If our boss says, be faithful with this, whether it's money or whatever, we know the assignment or stewardship that goes along with it. And if we don't, we better be asking, right? But with this man, obviously, he had 5 times as many talents as the last person, so his ability had to match that amount of money. So the Lord is saying, I know you, and I know you have more abilities than this one, because maybe this one was young and he hadn't done all of those things quite yet like the others had done. He's afraid. Just like that young man I was working with and trying to get him to believe in himself and believe that God believes in him. Thoughtful. His own servants. He had a relationship. And he authoritated it. He said, you go and be faithful. Here's something we need to hear in our life today. You know what? We have been authoritated to be faithful with the talents, with whatever stewardships God has given us. We do not need anyone in this world to tell us to go do it. We don't even need our elders. Now, I'm not saying where you usurp the authority over the eldership. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not even hinting at it. I talk with my elders all the time. Every week we're in a meeting about something. I call and let them know if I'm going to be doing some things, I'm just going to let them know. I know what they're going to say. Well, just do it. I know, but I just don't want anyone telling you something went on and you're like, So we have that relationship. But guess what? God doesn't want us to wait on the elders to tell us to do something. He said, you be faithful with what I have given you. I'm giving you this money. I'm giving you this talent, this stewardship. You be faithful. God has a relationship with each one of us individually, or at least He desires that. How personal is your relationship with God? If you haven't heard Him say, well done, maybe it's not personal enough yet. Maybe we need to begin looking at what is it that God is wanting me to do? What stewardships has God given me. Do you know where your abilities lie? Have you ever asked yourself, what stewardship has God given me? If you're a Christian and you can't answer that question, I would challenge you to go home and start tonight trying to figure out what stewardship or stewardships God has given you. Because we will never hear well done if we don't understand what those stewardships are. Master, here's the 5 that you gave me, and here's 5 more. Well done. Well done. But to the one who hid it, maybe because he was told he wasn't good enough, maybe he didn't understand what God wanted from him, maybe he wasn't really, truly helped in his Christian walk. And sometimes we forget that not everybody coming to Christ knows everything, right? Sometimes we study with someone and they come into the church and become a Christian and they really don't have a clue what they're doing. What abilities do they have? When was the last time you tapped on someone's shoulder and said, you know what, you would be really good at... People need to hear it. They need to hear it from us. Larry's become one of my really good, close friends. It wasn't that long ago, Larry decided, because someone challenged him, to start teaching. He wasn't comfortable, were you, Larry? I don't think so. But you start building a relationship and go, you know what? I'm going to start somewhere. God wants me to be in His Word, and all I'm doing is sharing a message about the one who I've given my life to. It's not that hard, right? Don't worry about the theology. Don't worry about all the Greek and all that stuff, because it really doesn't matter. There's enough people who've already done all that for us. Okay? Just talk about Jesus. How is Jesus going to change our life? How does He change our relationships? How do you talk to other people? How do you go and visit with someone in a Walmart store? You know, my wife, she won't really go with me to Walmart. You know why? Because I will talk to everybody in the store. I had a lady, one of the ladies who was checking me out one day, and we just got in a conversation, and she began telling me about her grandson who was getting ready to go in the hospital for surgery. And she said, will you pray for my grandson? And I said, I sure will. About a month later, I was in that Walmart, and I walked back in the line, and it was the same lady checking me out. And I said, how's your grandson? And she looked at me really funny and was like, what? And I said, you told me that your grandson was getting ready to have surgery the last time I was in here. And she was like, you remembered that? I said, yeah. You asked me to pray for him, and I did. How is he? He goes, I can't believe. She's ready to start bawling. Because I remembered she had a grandson that was going to have surgery. We don't know. Does that seem like a big thing? Doesn't really seem like a big thing, does it? But to her, it was huge. I will talk again. People say, well, that's what you get paid for. I've always talked. I was one of those ones in school who was always raising my hand and asking questions. My senior year, I've told this story at church, at our congregation. My senior English teacher, and our big project back then that everybody had to do, and you have to type it and double space, and you had to do all this stuff with it, and it was like, man, are you kidding me? You know how many hours I'm going to have to be in the library to do this? And I type like this. I still type like that. But I'm like, I don't want to do this. And he said, I'm going to give you something I've never done in all the years I've been teaching. I'm going to give you the opportunity. If you want to get up and give your report orally, you don't have to type anything out, hand any paperwork in at all. You can just talk. 5 minutes. I'm like, what is the catch? Because he was one of my football coaches also. And so I'm like, there's always a catch. I'm like, Mr. Huggins? He said, yes. I said, you're telling me no strings attached. If I get up and talk for 5 minutes, I don't have to hand in all that paperwork? Did I hear that correctly? He said, yes. That's what I'm saying. Do I have any takers? There were 3 people in my senior class out of 5 classrooms of students of his, 3 of us that were willing to get up and talk. I'm thinking, man, 5 minutes is a whole lot easier than all those other hours. I can talk. Oh, Larry. What are we talking about, though? When we stop and look at our conversations, what do we talk about? What has filled our heart? What's important to us is what we'll talk about. What stewardships does that money represent? What stewardships do we have that God has given us that this money, not a talent, not this or silver, not that, but let's put something in its place and make it practical. What stewardships has God given us? Has given you? How many of you adults have children? Okay, I'm going to tell you, one of the greatest stewardships that we have are children. They are not ours. They are God's. They were created in God's image, and God gave them to us to be faithful with. And one day we're going to stand before Him, and He's going to say, where are all of my children that I gave you? Were you faithful? Were you faithful with my children? How about our marriages? Is that a stewardship? Sometimes we fail at it, don't we? Sometimes we need to stop what we're doing and stop saying the things that we're saying and start learning and praying and asking God, I want to be a better husband. I want my wife to be a better wife because it'd make it easier, right? That's what we can say. But no, it doesn't matter. What can I do, Lord? What can I do to be more faithful with the wife that you have blessed me with? And I don't do that enough. But I'm going to be held accountable one day for that. The gospel, God's word. Jesus said in Matthew 28, right? The Great Commission. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and what? Enjoy the world. Go fishing and be happy and fill your life with all of those things. What did he say? Go into all the world and make disciples. How easy is it to make a disciple? If we don't know what a disciple is, it's hard to make one. I promise you. You don't know how to drive a dozer, it's hard to drive one. Sometimes we need to ask, will you help me? What do I need to do to help make someone a disciple, someone who believes in Jesus Christ, someone who wants to have this relationship? Well, it's not by going and telling them all the negative things about, well, you know, that church, I'm going to tell you right now, there's this old man who did this to this boy, and this lady, she She just always complaining about that. And sometimes that's what people hear about our family. People shouldn't hear that about our family. That's not what they should be hearing. They should be saying, man, brother, I am so glad you went to camp with us this year. You added so much to our camp session. I am grateful that we have a relationship with this congregation now, because now we have the talents, the abilities, those stewardships that God is giving them and blessing them to be a part of in our group, in our camp session, and not only camp session, but other parts of our life. There are a lot of times I have youth ministers I've worked with, and I tell them, we have a round table here. I don't know, some of my kids don't click with me, and they may click with you, but they're not my kids. I love them like they are, and I tell them they're mine, but sometimes they're going to click with you and not with me. That's okay, if we're being faithful with what He's given us. Go and make disciples. Paul to Timothy in 2 Timothy 2. He said, the things you've heard from me among many witnesses, those same things you entrust to others who will be able to do the same thing. We're passing this message on. And we're going to give the truths of God's Word to our kids, and we're going to entrust those things to people who are also going to be able to do that and pass them on and pass them on and pass them on. And the world can be changed with the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ if we're faithful with the talent of the gospel, with the abilities that God has given us. We can talk, you can talk. Know a man who was scared to death to get up in front of people, but he was holding a Bible study in his house 2 or 3 nights a week. He discipled more people than anyone I've ever known, and he would not lead a prayer or lead singing or anything in front of the congregation. Couldn't do it. His knees went to knocking, and sometimes we think, yeah, well, I'm up there all the time. And I think, boy, if I was more like Leonard, how many people could I have sat down and studied with and talked to and converted and matured them in Christ? What stewardship has God given you? Good and faithful servant. Complete antithesis of bad and unfaithful. I'm going to have to run because I just realized I've been talking, and we probably should have already been finished. Well done, good and faithful servant. Good. You remember they said, talking to Jesus, good teacher? And he said, why do you call me good? There's only one who's good. There's only one who's good, and that's our God. You know what to do. Keep the commandments. But he said, but one thing that you lack, sell everything that you have and give all of that to the poor. What he's saying is trade your earthly treasure for heavenly treasure. Nothing that we have belongs to us. Doesn't. I don't remember who was singing this song, but I heard a song one day here recently, and it's probably a popular song, I don't know, but they said something about, I've never seen a U-Haul attached to a hearse. We're not taking anything with us when we leave this place. It doesn't belong to us. This world and everything in it is God's. There's only one thing that we have to give God. You listening to me? There's only one thing that we have to give to God, and what is that? Me. My heart and my mind. That's all that I have. Good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, and now I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to give you a whole lot more than you've ever had before. Now that sounds good if it's money and it's ours, but when he's talking about this, he's saying, you've been faithful with the assignments, with the stewardships that I blessed you with, and now I'm going to give you even more. More work is a blessing? I don't know about that. Yeah, it is. Think of all the things that God is nurturing us with to become and to do. How much of a difference, how many more relationships are we going to have and get to know? How many people are out there yet to build those relationships with? I am grateful of the people that I've gotten to know through the years and the friendships that I've built. It wasn't that long ago that I was not friends with Larry and Kim. But I don't think a week goes by that I'm not on the phone with them at least once, if not 4 or 5 times. And it may be for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. We may be thinking about something we're going to do, and we're going to take the little kids to do this or that, or the older kids to go on a fish. We keep talking about taking them fishing. We've taken them on campouts. Any of y'all that want to go with us, we'll be going on more of those. What a great time. Relationships that God has blessed us with. And so he says, if you're faithful, you'll be faithful with what I've given you. And Paul in Romans 12 talks about those gifts that were given, prophecy and serving and teaching and exhorting and giving and showing mercy. And a lot of those things, some of us have and some of us don't. Showing mercy is one of those things that sometimes is not the easiest thing to do. Sometimes we want to say, son, you need to wake up. You need to quit acting like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want anything to do with you. You are not going to do this anymore. When what they really need is what? They need a Barnabas, not a Paul, for a little while, saying, it's all right. You can go with me. It's okay. I understand. You had some difficulties in your life. I get it. I've been there. Just come with me. Ride with me. Let's go visiting together. I told my elders many years ago, you need to quit asking people if they can go do this or go do that and tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, when can you go with me? Does Tuesday night or Thursday night work better for you? I'm going to go visit this family, and I want you to go with me. Which night's best for you? Don't give them an out. Don't say, you want to go visit with me? That gives an out, right? Well, not really. When do you want to go with me? Because I think in X number of years, I know about your relationships, I know about your marriage and about your kids, I know about your personality, and I want to start grooming you to be one of the shepherds in the Lord's church in a few years from now. That's how it happens. It doesn't happen one day when we get up and say, hey, does anybody know anyone that's going to be a good elder? Can we put somebody's name forward because we need some more elders? It's not how it works. Shouldn't. Our shepherds, if they're faithful, will be nurturing people, husband and wife, to be faithful and make a difference in the kingdom when they're ready. Well done, good and faithful servant. Now here's the best part. We'll end on this one. Enter in. Isn't that what we're waiting on? Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter in to your master's joy. How many of you want to hear those words? I hope we all do. We know what God has asked us to do. Be faithful. We know that God has blessed us with stewardships, with talent, whether that's talent of gold or a talent of children or a talent of marriage or a talent of speaking or a talent of showing mercy or whatever those things are, whichever and however many of them there are, we know that God has done that and has given that to us, and He's given us that assignment. And so we look at it and we say, are we being faithful? Because He is going to show up again and He's going to say, what have you done with what I've given you? Are we ready today, right now, if He came back, are we ready to hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant, enter in? I don't know about you, but I'm ready to not be here anymore. Now, does that mean I hate this world? No, that's not what I'm talking about. But just think about, when we get to heaven, everything is perfect. We're not going to have to fight over who controls the thermostat. I don't know if any of y'all do that. We don't really fight. We just used to have a whole lot of quilts on our bed, and they would all be folded in half on Holly's side, and I had the sheet side. In the car, the thermostats. All of that stuff, it's not going to be a part of it anymore. My back is not going to bother me. My knees aren't going to bother me anymore. I'm not going to need any more surgeries on those knees and shoulders and all that we get to have. It comes with it. It's fine. We can get through it. We're not going to have to worry about all the things that are going on in this life anymore. We know that everything is going to be perfect. And my brother is in the last few days of his life right now. We go out every day, one of us is out there with him. And I know that he's ready to be gone from this place. And so I've prayed, God, let him pass peacefully. Because I know where he's going. My dad went last year on Father's Day. My hero. He's the one who helped me with my faith more than anyone in my life. I know where my dad is. My dad was suffering for a long time. But I know he's already heard, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter in. See, sometimes we get caught up on a parable like this, and we try to make it too tough. God says, I'm just giving you what you need to make it through this life. I love you. I know you. Don't listen to the world. Don't get confused by this world. You focus on this. I love you. I created you in my image, and I have blessed you with insurmountable opportunities to love and to be loved. And I'm coming back. And that's what he said to his disciples in John 14. In my Father's house, what many rooms. And I'm going there to prepare one for you. For you. For you. For you. Perfect. Nothing wrong with it. Never needing to be changed. Something we can enjoy for eternity. And if I go and do that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to welcome you that you may be where I am, that you can go with me. And I'm going to take you there. That's what he said. That's what he says to us today. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter in. I don't know where you are tonight in the things that God has blessed you with in your life, what talents that God has given you, how many of those assignments, those stewardships. But I would challenge you tonight with this. Look inside, and maybe you need to ask the people who are closest to you. Do you feel like I'm being faithful with what God has given me? Do you see something that I'm not doing that I should be doing? That's a hard question. But we need to hear it. Ask those people you're close to. Ask them to pray for you and help you. Get someone that you're close to, and y'all sit down and talk once in a while and say, we need to be faithful. This is what we're about. This is what we want to do, and we want to make it to heaven together, so let's make it together. Let's make sure we get this thing right. Let's do it. So if you're struggling with something, I challenge you, find someone that you can depend on, someone that you can talk to, someone that you can build that relationship with. Maybe you've already got that relationship that'll be honest and truthful, and tell them that. Be honest with me. Be truthful with me. I want to be in heaven, and I want you there with me. Let's get this right. Are you ready to hear those words when you look at yourself? Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter in. Are you ready to hear those words? If not, why not? What are you waiting on? What do you need to hear? What do you need to do to be ready? So if you are subject to an invitation that we can stop, and I'm sure that someone would love to be here. If not, I'll stop. I'll pray with you. I don't know very many people here, but if you want us to pray with you, we would do that right now. We would love to do that. If there's anything you're struggling with, I challenge you, don't leave tonight and just leave it undone. Find someone to talk to. Get on your hands and knees if you need to and pray. But don't leave without the expectation of hearing those words. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter in. If you're not ready to go home, then get ready. And so if you need to respond to the invitation tonight, we ask you to just come right now while we stand and we sing this song together.